Shalom, everyone, and welcome to Practical Spirituality. This is going to be kind of a timely moment in this because my parents' house burned down in the LA fires. We got the word last night, and they lost everything. And losing everything means it's just hard to imagine, but my father's 95, so imagine being 95 years old. He's in good health, by the way. So imagine being 95 years old and you have nothing to show for the fact that you existed. You have nothing to hand down to anybody. You have no memorabilia, not one photo of your entire life. Not you, not your parents, not your kids, nothing. I mean, he doesn't own one electronic device. He doesn't. Yeah, he has his phone. He just bought a new Mac. That thing's gone. But whatever, just everything he owns is gone. And he's pretty devastated, actually. But my mom, who's 86, is very interesting. You know what her first response was when she got the news that it's gone? You know what she said? She said, well, I guess I'm like a newborn person. And while everyone's freaking out and crying and going through hell, and my father's just like doing constant inventory of the things he's lost, my mother is not doing that at all. She's just like, the important stuff's fine. You know, I'm good. And she lost way more than he did. I mean, she's a proper artist. Like, she has oil paintings and watercolor paintings that are classics, you know, that everyone's had their eye on, you know, like, can I have your painting when you are dead? You know, everybody wants her artwork, which is all gone now. And thank God, whatever pieces we got out, even my last trip there a month ago, I was like, took out in my luggage was, you know, wrapped in one of her towels, which I've been using for the mikveh ever since, because just a little finer towel from LA than we get here in Israel. But wrapped in that towel was one of her oil paintings. And yeah, it's crazy. But what I wanted to share was my mother's attitude, really. You know, while we were getting the news, our house was like, I live in the courtyard behind this place in Yerushalayim and in Nachlaot, and our courtyard had, instead of like one or two people in it, it had about, I don't know, maybe 1,000 people in it, with live music and dancing, because it was a Chnosas Sefer Torah in our community. And so it's like, I knew on one side of me, like, my parents are losing everything in a fire, and on the other side of me, I'm dancing for joy about a Torah that's eternal. And when I say eternal, everyone should, you know, God should protect every Sefer Torah from being burned, but God forbid a Torah burns. God forbid we lose a Sefer Torah. That's a horrible thing. But the Torah, you know how many Sefer Torah were burned by the Goyim over all of history? No impact on us, you know, impact on our hearts, but the Jewish people go on like nothing happened. Jewish people go on, you know, we just, okay, next, oh, expelled from our city we grew up in. Okay, next, you know, everyone was killed except for you. Okay, next, you know, what's gonna happen next? I guess I'll marry someone else and have more kids. You know, I have a cousin so I have an uncle who, Zayd's brother, Moshe, he lived in Vishnitz in Marmash, and they, you know, his wife and kids were killed in the war, and he got out and he married another lady, and had one son. Like they had one son, but that one son's had a bunch of kids, and it's like, next, and think about it. The Jewish people in the Holocaust, we were in slave labor. We were absolutely enslaved in horrible worst conditions that any human being could ever be put in. It's built specifically to torture us. Meaning it was psychological terror, and for going on for years. And the chance of living was none. Who are the people who lived? The people who lived were like people who are a little less sensitive, probably, meaning they can, watch people die in front of them all day long and still kind of, I don't know, they must have shut down quite a bit of their feelers to be able to survive it. And they lived by absolute miracle, on the day they thought they were going to die, they finally collapsed, and people were just like walking over their body, and then some German just threw them in a ditch, and it turned out that the next day he woke up somehow and like stayed alive and crawled back into his barracks, and stayed awake alive another day. But you see that like black people who were in slavery in America are still fighting for reparation. You understand, they're still trying to pull themselves out from what they went through. And how long ago was slavery? I'm not talking about the racism. Racism continued all the way till Martin Luther King, who I'm named after. Martin Luther King died 3 days before I was born. And yeah, my English name is John Martin Glazer. My Hebrew name is Yom Tov. But I was named after Martin Luther King because he was, my parents were secular Jews, like on the front lines of civil rights movement, and having Martin Luther King die literally 3 days before I was born was enough to get me that name. So I'm actually named, I'm a Hasidic rabbi named after a Southern Baptist black minister. And, but you got, that's 1968, April 1968. Going back, how many years? Does anyone know when slavery was? 1865. 1865 was that Lincoln's time?
Yeah, that's when he freed the slaves.
Freed the slaves. Look at the Jews, like after the Holocaust, within 10 years after the Holocaust, they were running Hollywood, they were running Manhattan, they were running like, they were just like up from the ashes. Israel also post-war just like flowers into this like startup nation that's like unique in the planet, teaching the whole world, giving the whole world all the bounty of its the intellectual collective of our country. Like we've done nothing but contribute to humanity. Like we don't stay down for a minute. We don't stay down for a minute. And so that's my, I don't know if you came in a little after, but my parents' home burned in the fire in LA. They just lost everything. Everything. It's smoldering ash on the floor. Like, I was 1 month ago, I was standing on the second floor balcony overlooking the ocean. There is no such thing as a second floor. It's just, I have a picture of it. I'll put it as the thumbnail on this video. So I'd like to talk a little more about my mother's perspective. So when she was about, I don't know, maybe 82, I picked her up at the airport. She was coming in for simcha or something. I don't remember what exactly. But I realized my son was coming in like 2 hours later. So I said to her on the way to the airport, on the way back to Jerusalem, I said to her, hey, you want to pull over in the local forest here, in the Ben Shemin forest, and go hiking? Now, what do you do with an 82-year-old woman who's just been on a 14-hour flight? What do? You get her to her apartment, you put her in the bedroom, like let her lay down, and when she gets up, she'll call and say, okay, I'm up. So what do you think my mother would say if I asked her if she'd like to go hiking at 82 years old? If she'd like to go hiking a little while, because if we hike for a while, we could just go back to the airport, because the Ben Shemin Forest is only a 15-minute drive. We'll go back to the airport and pick up my son and his wife and kids. What do you think she said? Hiking? Yeah. Hell yeah. She's like, yeah, let's go hiking. So then we're hiking, and all of a sudden it starts to rain. So I'm like, oh man. So I'm thinking, oh man, we better get her in the car and take her to Jerusalem, you know. And she was like, oh, this is beautiful. This is so beautiful. Like, wow. It's like, now it's raining. It's like so fresh. Like the air is so fresh. And we just kind of went into a pine forest area where it wasn't raining as strongly, and sat down on a log and chilled for a while. And so she's got this attitude of just being wherever you are. Being wherever you are. And not too much self-referencing. She's not thinking much about her own situation. Not really worried about that. You know, there's a famous story of someone sent a letter to the Lubavitcher Rebbe about the terrible depression they were suffering, and also that how it's affected them spiritually, like meaning they're not feeling their davening. I don't feel my prayers. I don't feel my learning. I'm not connecting. I'm not getting into Yontiv. I'm like, you know what I mean? It was like, so that, you know, the Rebbe sent back a letter to him, and the letter was a copy of the same letter, meaning he just sent back the letter. Only he circled the word I at the beginning of each sentence. And he said, at the bottom, he just wrote like Refuah Shalema, for over-focus on I. Refuah Shalema on that, you know. You realize that, imagine the Atlantic Ocean, 10,000 meters deep. I made that up, but I imagine it's deep. If anyone's got Google, go ahead, check it out. So imagine the center of the Atlantic Ocean, 10,000 meters deep, you know, like deep. And the very middle of the bed of the ocean is one H2O molecule. It's an H, it's a H and two O's in the middle of the ocean. And it says, I'm declaring independence of this ocean. I have nothing to do with this ocean. Independent of this ocean. That's you being overly focused on the I in the greater scheme of reality, in this expanding universe. This earth we're on is a speck of dust flying at like crazy speeds as it spins in this orbit around a sun that's, you know, so far away, and in a galaxy that you couldn't even get to the end of in like 100 lifetimes at the speed of light. And it's only one galaxy amongst millions of others, and uncountable amounts of these galaxies. And we know as Kabbalists, I'm calling you all Kabbalists now, and we know as Kabbalists that none of this even left God's mind. The whole thing's inside of Hashem's mind, meaning God can't create something He's not. Anything God makes, He is. So it's all within Hashem anyway, the whole thing. And now I'm going to be that little H2O in the middle, thinking about I. And what you'll wind up with is I. And now I'm not making fun. We all, including myself, go into the poor me mode. We all go into poor me mode. And by the way, since there's men in this room right now, if you ever get in that poor me mode, go find a friend. Leave your wife out of the poor me mode. No woman wants to be married to a lemon, okay? It makes them very insecure when you go poor me. So no poor me mode. Like, you can have poor me. I get in poor me mode. I have exactly who I call. I call my friend in New York. His name's Ari Eagle. And the Eagle lifts me out. Ari lifts me out every time. You know, and he laughs at me and pokes at me. And when he's feeling like Nevach, I lift him out too. So that's for friends, not for our wives. But I also go into poor me, and good luck stubbing your toe and not being completely consumed by your throbbing toe, you know. So when you're going through something, you're going through something. There's no real expanded consciousness when your whole world's contracting around your toe, or contracting around a bankruptcy, or contracting around losing everything you own. My mother is a special kind of character in that she's able to just, okay. Her response to her house burning down well, I guess I'm a newborn little girl. She's now 86. But she was like, I guess I'm new now. Nothing holding me back. As if anything was holding her back before. This is a woman who would wake us up in the middle of the night. And we'd be like, it's 1 a.m. She'd wake us up in the middle of the night, and we'd be like, what do you want? And she'd turn on the lights in our rooms, and my 4 brothers and I, and she'd say, it's a meteor shower. We're like, meteor shower? Yeah, there's shooting stars. Jump in the car. And so we all get in the car, and she's got blankets, and we're all in our pajamas, and she drives up to the top of the mountains where there's no more city light, and we all lay on her warm hood of her station wagon, Oldsmobile station wagon from like the 70s. We're all laying on there with our heads on the windshield, like looking up at the stars with a big blanket on the whole gang, all of us lined up there. And every time there's a shooting star, we're all like, yeah, freaking out. Wow. Or, Shalom Aleichem, or she would wake us up in the middle of the night, and she would say to my mother, she'd wake us up in the middle of the night, and we're like, what is it, shooting stars? And she's like, no, Santa Ana winds. Santa Ana winds. You know what Santa Ana winds are? No. Santa Ana winds are what burned my parents' house down last night. There's 2 nights ago. Come over one seat so I can look at you and let the people on the camera feel like I'm talking to them. You should really be sitting right between these 2 guys. Bring that chair over right there. I feel bad for the people on the camera that I keep looking. I keep looking away. Okay. There you go. That's the spot. So she would say, Santa Ana winds. You guys, Santa Ana winds. I guess there must be some place called Santa Ana. Santa Ana, but we call it Santa Ana. And I guess it's inland from LA. So the way things work is the ocean during the day blows wind towards the land, and then at night the wind blows towards the ocean, gently. If it's a storm, then it's only going to come this way. It's going to come off the ocean. But what happens, a couple times a winter, it's in the winter, a couple times a winter there's Santa Ana winds where all of a sudden you have these like 85-degree winds that can blow at like 85 miles per hour and just like straight out to the ocean in the strongest, warmest wind. In the middle of the winter, it's 85 degrees at night. And so she'd wake us up in the middle of the night and she'd go, kids, get up, Santa Ana winds. And she'd throw us all in the car, drive down to the beach, and we'd all be on the beach at 2 in the morning with these warm winds that are like blowing us over. And it's just like, she'd be like, close your eyes, feel the wind, feel the wind. She wasn't raised observant when I was playing in our swimming pool as a kid. And by the way, the home that was burned, my parents' home burned, the home that was burned was not the home I grew up in. They've had this home for like 30 years, but the home I grew up in is completely evacuated right now. That area is evacuated, but it's not burned.
Surfing school, right? You went surfing school.
So my parents, the home I grew up in, I was swimming in the pool, and I was by myself in the pool area. I was a little kid. I was probably like 7, and swimming. I wasn't swimming. I was on the side of the pool, and I was playing flood with an ant. And the water's kind of evaporating on the hot cement, and I had an ant there, and I was like bringing the flood, and I was trying to get away from the flood. And then all of a sudden, I wasn't paying a lot of attention to my surroundings. I thought I was alone. All of a sudden, I get this splat. It's my mother's foot, and she stepped on my ant. I look up, you killed my ant. And she says, my father taught me that this is what happens when you die.
Huh?
Meaning, there's no afterlife. And then she said the most amazing words. She said, you better live your life to the fullest. Or what did she say? You better live your life to the fullest possible. or live each day to its fullest possible. Now, subsequently, she became a Balas Tshuva. She's observant. She's like, believe me, she believes in the next world 100%. She's like most amazing Hasidic lady, like incredible. Balas Amuna, like incredible. And she's one of these candle ladies, that just keeps, no matter who's born, she lights another candle. So now it's just like this giant table of candles everywhere. She's one of these candle Amuna ladies davening by her candles. When you walk on the cliffs, back when she owned a home, when you walked on the cliffs of the overlooking Malibu, if you looked into their house on a Friday night, you'd just see this like giant like candle table covered in flames. And it used to be on the window, but she moved it back a little because she felt like all the anti-Semitism since October 7th, that she's just like, let's take the candles a little further back. People should have to look a little more carefully to see we're Jewish, Anyway, but many years later, I'm in yeshiva, I'm in Aisha Torah, and I'd gotten in my dorm room at like 2 in the morning, and what had I been doing? God knows what. I was probably by Rebbe Shimon or whatever. I got back to Yerushalayim. But that day, I woke up, I went surfing in the morning, then I got back to Seder, learned Seder. Lunchtime, instead of lunch, I went mountain biking. After that, went back to second Seder. Then I probably went to the Schwitz. Then I went back to night Seder. Then I probably went up to Miron. And then I came back from Miron, and this is the way I was living my life. And so my roommates cornered me, and they said, do you believe in a next world? And I'm like, what do you mean? Of course I do, How dare you suggest a Baal Tshuva doesn't believe in the next world? They're like, do you not believe in a next world? And I said, sure I do. They said, well, why do you live every single day as if it's your last? Like, you just don't stop. You squeeze out every last bit of every single day until you're ready to pass out, and then you go to sleep, and you wake up, and you do it all over again. Do you even believe there's a next world? Are you really trying to get everything in this world? And that's when I realized that my mother had badly brainwashed me. She had badly brainwashed me because when I was that little kid who had my aunt, that little aunt I was chasing around, suddenly murdered, to be told there's no afterlife. A transgenerational, like it's a Masora v'yadeinu me'avosenu, like it's like my father said, it's like 3 generations coming down that there's no next world. But live your life to the fullest. So I'm in a weird situation because I have this day, I've only found out last night that my parents lost everything they have. And here I am, and while subsequently a Sefer Torah, Achnosis Sefer Torah is happening literally outside my window. I mean, I was dancing the whole time, at the Achnosis Sefer Torah. Then I was up in the shul over my house dancing. I think maybe for all of us, it's a chance for us to learn a few lessons. And one of those lessons is how much of you needs a physical remnant of your existence? How much of you needs to make a mark that's visible, tangible, pass-onable, How much of you, do you have anything you're here to pass on? And is that important to you? Meaning that you have something physical to show for your life? Do you need documentation that you existed? Because in one fire, all the collections in the world of someone who actually believed they needed to collect things is gone. One fire, goodbye. It's over. Everything's gone instantaneously without a chance to even take anything. And then the other question is, well, then what are you living for? What is your life about? What are you passing on? So you'll pass on hopefully some genes if women don't select you out. I bless you not to be a victim of Darwin's natural selection, because women are vicious selectors, to quote Jordan Peterson. Women are vicious selectors. And if you're getting selected out at this point, to pretend that you just haven't found her yet is not all right. Meaning this whole "I haven't found her yet" business is, or for a woman, "I haven't found him yet" is also, it's not okay at a certain age. Like at a certain age, you have to ask yourself some serious questions about why it is you're getting selected out for the propagation of your genetic material. And and I'm not saying that at all to be mean. I'm just, saying that we're talking about burning houses today. So it's like we're being very real. Like we have to really cut to the truth. But what is it we're passing on? So are we going to pass on some genetics? Monkeys pass on genetics. So I guess we're going to pass on values. Well, Romans had some values, Nazis valued, a master race, So maybe we're going to pass on some Torah. Maybe we'll pass on eternity, something that really does last forever. And another thing, which is your own personal development, is how much have you developed yourself? How much have you developed yourself to be someone who could lose everything and be fine? Isn't that an interesting way of looking at it? Like, how much have you developed yourself into the guy that could lose everything and just walk away? Now, obviously, there should be a little mourning over your stuff, I guess, but like, walk away after. Like the famous story from there was a famous cult book called The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. You guys heard of that book, The Way of the Peaceful Warrior? Am I saying it right? I think
It rings a bell, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's a famous teenage type read.
Yeah.
College kid in Berkeley has found a guru who is teaching him the wisdom of life. And the guru runs a store in a gas station. And so the kid would just go to the store or the gas station. He would get his wisdom he'd get his wisdom of the day from the gas station guru. And anyway, so one day he's coming by and he sees smoke in the air. And he looks and starts running. He's like, I hope it's not my guru's store. But yes, it is. And the store is just completely engulfed in flames. And the guru is standing like 100 feet away on the sidewalk watching his store burn down. And he sees his guru, like, the kid's still like a few blocks away, but he's seeing the flames and he's seeing it's the store and he's seeing his guru standing there like this. And then his guru falls on the ground and like moves into terrible, terrible sobbing. He's like mourning his store, terrible sobbing over his store. And then you know what he does? He like, after like rolling around on the floor crying, he like gets up and he goes, and he just walks away as if nothing ever happened. Didn't even look back. He didn't even look back at the smoldering story. Just, okay, next. So, which is a lesson, is to feel it fully. And I have a feeling my mother is going to have a moment of serious reckoning, in her heart about the loss of everything she owns. And I imagine, all the memorabilia, all the photos, all the photo albums, nothing's digitized. Like, every last remnant in the physical world that existed around my parents is gone. And as I was saying before, that normally only happens when you die. Like when you die, you lose everything. But how about the feeling of losing everything, but you have to stay alive? Normally, it's when you die you lose it all. Here, you lose it all and you live. So So then it asks, that's the question is, what are you living for? It's clearly not that, because that's gone. So now what are you living for? And I wonder if my father at 95 will turn over a new leaf in his life. You know, or is he just going back to the ball games and, you know, just be in poor me mode the rest of his life. Well, I bless them to move to Israel. You know, they do have 3 kids in LA and some grandkids, but since the Jewish people's future is not going to be being hosted anymore by Gentile nations, even though obviously the US, Canada, and some parts of Europe are still viable places to live for Jews, but our future is not there. Certainly not there. So like now that they lost everything, and my dream is that they just, you know, I think they have passports. I don't know if they took their passports. But if they got their passports, they might as well just move here now. And this place really treats the elderly much better than anywhere else. And I think they could have a good life here and get the insurance policy and make a nice life for themselves here, where they'll be doted on by all their grandkids and great-grandkids and stuff. Blessings, everybody. Anyway, may we all be blessed to have a bracha in our ruchnius that lasts forever and our gashmius that is temporal. May all of us be blessed with a bracha and a shmira on all we are spiritually and all we've got materially. And may my parents' lack be fulfilled, and may all those thousands and thousands of people who lost their homes and their businesses and everything, may they be blessed to carry on in a good way. Amen.